The red light on the card reader didn't just blink, it sneered. That sharp electronic rejection cut through the morning air like a slap in the face. I stood there holding my company badge, looking at those glass doors of Summit Industries like I was studying a crime scene that hadn't happened yet. The reflection staring back at me was Russell Brooks, 47 years old, compliance officer for 12 years, and apparently as of 8:30 this morning, unemployed. Card trouble, Russell. The voice came from behind me, dripping with fake concern. Hunter Davis, our head of security. Young guy, maybe 30, all tactical gear and attitude. He carried himself like he was still patrolling Baghdad instead of babysitting accountants in Ohio. Red light usually means someone forgot to pay the electric bill. Hunter, I said, keeping my voice level. Or somebody pressed the wrong button. Boss wants to see you. Escort required. I looked at him. Really looked. The way his hand hovered near his radio, how his eyes kept darting to the lobby camera. This wasn't security protocol. This was theater. Lead the way, soldier. He didn't like that. His jaw tightened, but he swiped his gold badge, definitely bought that upgrade himself, and the doors hissed open. The office smelled like it always did on a Wednesday morning. Stale coffee, copying machine ozone, and that low-grade panic of 200 people realizing the weekend was still 3 days away. I walked past the cubicle farm. Heads popped up like prairie dogs. Sophia from accounting looked away fast. Noah from logistics suddenly found his stapler fascinating. In corporate America, the smell of blood travels faster than a company-wide email. Hunter marched me past my own office, modest 10x10 box where I'd spent 12 years pretending to care about safety seminars and diversity training, straight toward the executive suite at the end of the hall. Miranda Walsh sat behind a desk that cost more than my truck. She had 2 suits flanking her, corporate lawyers probably, looking like they were carved out of soap and student loans. Walsh was 42, MBA from somewhere expensive, with teeth so white they could guide ships to shore. "Russell," she said, not standing up. She gestured to a chair positioned noticeably lower than hers. Classic power move. I stayed standing. "Miranda, we've decided your services are no longer required. Effective immediately." The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. I let it hang there, wanted to see who'd crack first. It was the lawyer on the left. He shifted and clicked his pen like a nervous tick. "Restructuring?" I asked, throwing them the bone they expected. "Exactly," Walsh said, looking relieved I was following the script. "We're streamlining operations. Your role has become redundant. Legacy thinking. We need fresh perspectives on regulatory compliance. Fresh perspectives. Code for we're hiring someone who won't notice I'm funneling 6 figures monthly into my Cayman Islands vacation fund. I see. And those 12 years of institutional knowledge, the audit trails, the vendor relationships? We have it covered," Walsh said, waving her hand like she was swatting a fly. "HR has your severance package ready. Standard 2 weeks, provided you sign the NDA. An NDA, of course. They wanted to buy my silence with grocery money. I don't think I'll be signing that," I said quietly. Walsh's smile flickered. "It's not optional if you want the severance, Russell." "I don't want the severance, Miranda. I want to know if you're absolutely sure about this decision." "Really sure? Because once I walk out that door, I can't protect you from what comes next." She laughed. Sharp, ugly sound. "Protect me?" "Russell, you organize fire drills and update safety manuals. You're a glorified hall monitor. I think I'll survive without your protection." She leaned forward, her expensive perfume cutting through the air, something floral trying to mask the smell of rot. "Hunter, escort him out. 5 minutes to collect personal effects. No electronics." "Understood," Hunter said, reaching for my elbow. I pulled back, firm but not aggressive. "Don't touch me." I looked Walsh in the eyes one last time. I was memorizing the arrogance, wanted to remember exactly how smug she looked sitting on her throne of lies, thinking she was queen of the jungle. She didn't know she was just a termite in a house that was already fumigated. "Goodbye, Miranda." As Hunter marched me through the gauntlet of staring coworkers, I didn't feel humiliated. I felt that cold, sharp anticipation in my gut, the feeling you get when you're adjusting for windage on a long-range shot. They thought they were taking out the trash. They didn't realize they were unplugging the containment system. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in my truck in the parking lot, Ohio sun beating down on the asphalt. Hunter stood at the glass doors, arms crossed, making sure I actually left. I reached into my wallet and touched the cold metal of my real badge, the one with the silver holographic sticker on the back. I started the engine and checked the rearview mirror. Hunter was still there, looking proud of himself. "Enjoy your victory lap," I whispered to the empty cab. "You just triggered the apocalypse." Back at my place, I looked around at what I called home. Functionally sparse is putting it nicely. No decorative pillows, no live laugh love signs, just furniture that serves a purpose and silence that would make a librarian nervous. It's the exact opposite of the chaotic incompetence I'd just left behind at Summit Industries. I kicked off my work shoes, the ones I bought specifically because they don't squeak on linoleum, and walked straight to the spare bedroom. To anyone visiting, it looks like a guest room. Generic bed, basic dresser, framed picture of a mountain on the wall. But if you slide that dresser 3 inches left and press the loose floorboard in the closet, you hear a satisfying click. The false back swings open to reveal my life's work. Not high-tech, James Bond stuff with holograms and lasers, just paper, boxes and boxes of paper. Hard drives can be seized, clouds can be hacked, but paper is boring. Paper is heavy. Nobody wants to sift through 12 years of physical invoices, shipping manifests, and expense reports. Nobody except me. I pulled out a thick black binder labeled Asset File A7329. This was the real compliance audit I'd been running since the day Miranda Walsh first charged a $3,000 consulting fee to a company that existed only on letterhead. I sat on the floor, binder heavy in my lap. The office smell was still in my nose, cheap carpet glue and broken dreams. I needed to wash it out with some justice. I poured myself a glass of water, room temperature, no ice, efficient. Then I fired up my laptop. Not the company brick they'd confiscated, but a custom build with encryption that would give the NSA a migraine. I logged into a backdoor I'd installed in Summit's server architecture back in 2019, disguised as a printer driver update. The logs were scrolling by. They were already cleaning house. Predictable. I could see Hunter's login credentials fumbling through the HR database, deleting my active status, purging my email archives. Guy was using a sledgehammer when he needed a scalpel. He was deleting the file records, but not the metadata of the deletion itself. Every time he hit delete, he was leaving a fingerprint that screamed, "I have something to hide." But the real beauty was what they'd missed. 8 months ago, I noticed Walsh getting greedier. She wasn't just skimming anymore. She was carving chunks out of the hull. She'd set up a new vendor, Phoenix Construction Solutions, to handle materials for a massive highway contract. Phoenix was just Walsh's brother-in-law with a P.O. box in Delaware. Here's where it gets interesting. I knew if I moved too soon, they'd shred everything. So I became part of the system. I created my own ghost. I navigated to the vendor database. There it was, buried deep in the subcontractor listings. Apex Engineering Services. Apex didn't exist either. I'd created the LLC using Walsh's own shell company templates, routed the paperwork through her rubber stamp approval process. She'd signed it without reading, just like she signed everything that promised a kickback. The twist? Apex Engineering Services was the only vendor in the system that was 100% compliant with Federal Oversight Regulation 47B. And Regulation 47B requires automated external backup of all communications involving that vendor. By signing that contract, Walsh had legally authorized a redundant server to copy every email, invoice, and text message she sent about the project. She thought she was approving another slush fund. She was actually signing a warrant for her own digital wiretap. I checked the status of the Apex server. Still humming along beautifully, capturing everything. New email from Walsh to her personal attorney. Timestamp 25 minutes ago, subject, he's gone, body, we're clear. Hunter walked him out, wiped his access logs just to be safe, but he doesn't know about the Cayman setup. We're in the clear. I took a sip of tepid water. The arrogance was breathtaking. She truly believed that because I wore khakis and organized the office Christmas party, I couldn't possibly understand complex embezzlement schemes. She thought compliance officer meant pushover. I reached for my phone. Burner, prepaid, disposable. Dialed a number that didn't appear in any contact list. One ring. Status? Deep voice, gravelly. This was Owen Mitchell, my handler at the DOJ. I'm out. They terminated the cover. Compromised? No, I said, running a finger down the spine of the binder. Arrogant. They're cleaning house because they want to scale up the operation. They think I was just dead weight. Do we extract? I looked at the screen, at Walsh's email. We're in the clear. Not yet, I said. The anger in my chest was cold and heavy. Not the hot rage of a scorned employee. This was the geological pressure of justice waiting to crush a mountain. They need to feel secure. I want them relaxed. Let them spend the weekend celebrating. Timeline? 48 hours, I said. I've got the breadcrumbs laid out. Just need to make sure the rats follow them. You're walking a thin line, Russell. If they figure out you're the source, they think my biggest concern right now is filing for unemployment, I interrupted. They don't know I built the maze they're running through. 48 hours, Owen said. Then we bring the hammer down. No, I corrected him, closing the laptop with a soft snap. I am the hammer. You guys are just the cleanup crew. The apartment went quiet again. I looked at the binder, at 12 years of evidence. I had them dead to rights. But justice isn't just about the verdict. It's about the terror of realization. I wanted Walsh to sweat. I wanted her to wake up at 3 a.m. wondering why the air felt thinner. Walking to the window, I looked out at the city skyline. Somewhere out there, Miranda Walsh was pouring herself a celebration drink, laughing about the old-timer she'd just fired. Drink up, Miranda, I whispered. It's the last good one you're going to have. Memory can be funny. Sometimes it's fuzzy. Sometimes it's crystal clear. For me, when I'm wearing a wire, it's usually the latter. I closed my eyes and went back 4 years to the moment that made this personal. The annual Contractors and Community Gala at the downtown Marriott. Room full of people who charged taxpayers $800 for folding chairs and then bought charity auction items to feel better about themselves. I was there as support staff, which meant holding Walsh's extra business cards and making sure she didn't drink too many Cosmopolitans before her speech. Miranda Walsh was holding court near the ice sculpture, 3 drinks deep, face flushed, talking to a circle of junior executives from competing firms. It's a volume game, Walsh was shouting over the jazz quartet. You think the profit's in the labor? Hell no. The profit's in the logistics. The padding. I stood about 6 feet away, looking bored, thinking about my truck payment. In reality, I was angling my jacket lapel, where a high-fidelity recorder was disguised as a company pin to catch every word. But Miranda, one of the junior guys, asked, "Doesn't the state audit the material costs?" Walsh laughed, slapping him on the shoulder. Audit? Son, they don't have the manpower to audit a lemonade stand. You bury the markup in expediting fees. You charge the state $200 for concrete barriers because they needed emergency deployment. It's not fraud if they sign the invoice. The circle laughed nervously. They wanted to be her, but they were scared of getting caught. Walsh turned and saw me standing there. Her eyes slid over me like I was office furniture. "Russell!" she called out, waving me over. "Tell these boys about the highway project audit, the one where we reclassified the flagmen as traffic safety engineers to bill at a higher rate." I stepped forward, smiling the smile of a flight attendant during turbulence. "You mean when you increased the hourly billing from $25 to $85 per person, ma'am?" The room went quiet for a second. Walsh blinked, then roared with laughter. "See? He gets it. Best damn paper pusher in the business." She leaned in closer to the scared-looking junior executive. "Guy's a vault. Doesn't ask questions, just processes the forms." You need someone like that. Smart enough to file correctly, not smart enough to understand what he's filing. Not smart enough. That was the moment it stopped being just an assignment and became personal. I kept my smile frozen. "Shall I get you another drink, ma'am? The keynote's starting soon, yeah, double. And make sure I'm sitting next to Senator Klein, not that blonde from Morrison Construction. Don't need any complications." That night I labeled the recording Evidence Item 023, Admission of Intent. Back in the present, the memory didn't hurt anymore. It was fuel. "Should have checked the resume, Miranda," I said to the empty room. "I didn't go to community college for business administration. I went to Quantico for forensic accounting." Next morning, the weather matched my mood, gray and ready for action. I sat at my kitchen table with coffee that was infinitely better than the swill in Summit's break room, watching my laptop screen like it was a nature documentary. Walsh had brought in cleaners. Digital traffic was spiking all over their network. Chaotic, desperate, like someone running around with a paper shredder, feeding it random documents. My inside contact, Sophia Martinez in accounting, sent me a message through an encrypted app disguised as a word puzzle game. Russell, it's chaos here. Hunter's interrogating the interns, asking if they ever saw you with a flash drive. Tell him I used to eat flash drives for breakfast. Good fiber. LOL. Seriously though, they brought in some outside IT kid. Looks like he lives in his mom's basement, wearing a Crypto King t-shirt. Crypto King, perfect. Walsh had hired discount tech support. I tapped into the security camera feed, still had access because they hadn't changed the default password in 8 years. Watched this kid with a magnificent neckbeard plug his laptop into the main server switch. He was trying to wipe the logs, running some brute force deletion script. Sloppy and loud. "Oh, honey," I whispered, watching him work. "You're not wiping data, you're just hiding shortcuts." He was deleting file pointers but leaving the actual data blocks sitting on the drives, waiting for any forensics tech with basic recovery skills. But let them think it's gone. Overconfidence kills more operations than bullets. Hunter walked into the camera frame, pacing, pointing at the server rack, making chopping motions. Cut it, kill it, burn it down. My phone buzzed. Hunter's calling ex-employees. Just called Lucas from 2 years ago, asking if you ever mentioned Cayman accounts or offshore banking. I laughed out loud. By making those calls, Hunter was doing my job for me. He was confirming to everyone who'd listened that there were offshore accounts. He was spreading the story faster than I ever could. Keep digging, Hunter. You're digging your own grave. I decided to help them panic. Opened a terminal and ran a small script I'd written weeks ago, a digital breadcrumb. It created a sudden activity spike in a dormant folder labeled Archive 2019 Personal, empty except for a pizza receipt from 3 years ago, but to Crypto King monitoring the network, it would look like active data theft. On camera, I watched the kid jump. He pointed at his screen. Hunter rushed over, face turning the color of a stop sign. They thought I was inside their system right now, stealing files. I wasn't. I was 5 miles away, eating toast and watching them lose their minds. Hunter grabbed his radio, started shouting. The kid was typing frantically, trying to block the phantom intruder. In his panic, he initiated a system-wide lockdown. Access denied. The entire Summit network went dark. The IT kid had pulled the plug on his own company. No email, no phones, no file sharing. They were flying blind. I leaned back and smiled. Now they couldn't communicate, couldn't coordinate, and most importantly, couldn't process payments. Emails down. Why? You are evil. The IT guy is crying. Walsh screamed so loud she broke a blood vessel. Perfect. While they ran around in the dark trying to reboot, I prepared the physical package. Simple manila envelope, no return address. Inside, 1 sheet of paper, the Apex Engineering Services vendor agreement signed by Miranda Walsh with Clause 47B highlighted in neon yellow, mandatory external data redundancy. I wasn't sending it to Walsh, that would be too merciful. I addressed it to the senior compliance officer at Titanium Corp, Summit's biggest client, the contract that represented 75% of their revenue. I sealed the envelope. The glue tasted like victory. Phase 3, I said to the empty room. Let's see how they handle sunlight. The coffee shop across from Summit Industries had terrible acoustics and worse bagels, but perfect sight lines to the lobby. I sat by the window, baseball cap and sunglasses, looking like I was dodging an ex-wife instead of former co-workers. 10:15 a.m. On Friday, the blog post had gone live at 10 o'clock. It wasn't the Washington Post, yet. Just an industry watchdog site called the Infrastructure Monitor. Small circulation but read by everyone who mattered in government contracting circles. Headline, Midwest contractor linked to phantom vendors, inflated material costs. I watched the lobby through the window, started slow. A receptionist checked her phone, frowned, whispered to the security guard. Then a suit walked past, looked at his phone, stopped dead. By 10:30, the lobby was a kicked anthill. Walsh stormed through the doors, phone glued to her ear, looking disheveled. She was shouting at someone, probably the PR firm she kept on retainer. My burner phone buzzed. Owen, we have movement. Titanium Corp just flagged Summit's vendor status. They're suspending payments pending review. Fast, I said. The envelope must have arrived. Then I saw it. The first crack in the facade. Rachel Torres, Walsh's executive assistant, walked out carrying her purse and a small potted plant. She stopped on the sidewalk, looked back at the building, and spat on the concrete. The rats were abandoning ship. I texted Rachel's personal cell. If you want immunity, call this number. Ask for Agent Coleman. Don't go home. Message changed to read. 30 seconds later. Thank you. Walsh had just lost her firewall. I wasn't hiding anymore. Time to walk into the lion's den. Parked in my old spot, still empty, like the ghost of my compliance audits haunted the asphalt. I walked toward the building, heart steady. This was the moment I'd rehearsed during 1,000 boring budget meetings. Sarah, the receptionist, looked up from her phone, eyes wide. "He's here," I heard her whisper shout. "Hunter, he's here." I didn't stop, pushed through the doors like I owned the place. Hunter came charging out, red-faced and sweaty, mustard stain on his tie. "You, trespassing. I've got a restraining order pending. Leave immediately or I'll physically remove you." Loud, theatrical. He wanted the terrified staff to see him being the alpha male. I stopped in the center of the lobby. Didn't raise my voice, didn't get aggressive. Just stood there, hands in my jacket pockets. "I don't think you want to do that, Hunter. I'm warning you. Get out. I'm here to return something." He was 3 feet away, close enough to smell the stale coffee on his breath. He reached out to grab my arm. "Don't," I said. Not a request. A command. Something in my voice stopped him. The predator instinct in his brain finally realized he wasn't looking at prey. Slowly, deliberately, I pulled my hand from my pocket. I was holding a leather badge wallet. Real leather, real weight. "You wanted my badge?" I said. "Here." Hunter sneered, snatched it from my hand. "What is this, some kind of joke?" He flipped it open. Froze. Gold shield, eagle, engraving, Department of Justice. His eyes bulged. He looked at me, then back at the badge. "Turn it over," I said softly. He obeyed, hands shaking. Silver holographic sticker. Code A7329. Asset, do not detain. Federal obstruction charges apply. Hunter made a sound like a deflating tire. Dropped the badge. I didn't," he stammered, face going from red to ghastly white. "Walsh said you were just—" "Walsh lied," I said, bending down to pick up the badge, dusting it off calmly. "Walsh lies about everything." The lobby was dead silent. Sarah had her hand over her mouth. "Is she upstairs?" I asked. Hunter nodded. Couldn't speak. "Good. Tell her she has 1 hour. 1 hour to call the U.S. attorney and confess. If she does, she might get minimum security. If she makes us come up there, she goes to the dark place." I turned and walked toward the exit. "Russell," Hunter called out, voice trembling. "What about me? I was just following orders." I stopped at the door, looked back. "Then you better hope your orders were in writing, Hunter, because just following orders hasn't been a valid defense since 1945. I walked out. The sun was trying to break through the clouds. 45 minutes later, the cavalry arrived. No sirens. That's for movies. 4 black SUVs pulled up in perfect formation. 12 agents in windbreakers stepped out. Leading them was Agent Coleman. He spotted me on a bench, gave a curt nod. We walked into the lobby together. "Federal agents! Step away from your desks!" The shredding stopped. Hands went up. We marched to the executive suite. Locked, of course. One swift kick and the door splintered open. Miranda Walsh sat at her desk, staring at the wall. Tie on the floor. Bottle of scotch half empty. She'd aged 10 years in 2 days. "You," she croaked. "You were the leak." "I wasn't a leak, Miranda," I said. "I was the plumbing." Agent Coleman placed a briefcase on the conference table, clicked it open. Stacks of files, hard drives, audio recordings. "This is every illegal transaction you've made since 2015. Every inflated invoice, every bribe, every penny you stole from the highway fund. You can't prove intent. These were accounting errors. We have the audio, Miranda, the gala recording. It's not fraud if they sign the invoice, remember?" Her face went gray. "And we have Rachel." She brought her backup calendar, even the private appointments. Coleman stepped forward with handcuffs. "Miranda Walsh, you are under arrest for conspiracy to defraud the United States government, wire fraud, and money laundering." As they cuffed her, Walsh looked at me one last time. "Who are you?" "I'm Asset A7329, I said, and the coffee was decaf. "For 12 years, I thought you needed to calm down." "Why wait so long?" she whispered. I leaned in close. "Because I wanted to see how high you'd build the tower before I kicked out the foundation." 3 hours later, I sat in a conference room with Coleman and an Inspector General representative. "Contract suspended," the IG said. "Summit Industries is effectively dead." "Good," I said. "We have a new assignment," Coleman said, pushing a file across. Defense contractor in Virginia. I pushed it back. No, I'm done. I'm retiring. You're 47. You can't retire. Watch me. I've got pension, savings, and 12 years of vacation time I never took. Coleman studied me, then sighed. Can't say I blame you. I walked out into the main office. The hum was gone. No phones ringing. No copiers grinding. Just silence. I saw Sophia from accounting. Russell, is it true? About the fraud? It's true, Sophia. All of it. What happens to us? File for unemployment. Then find a job at a company that doesn't steal from veterans. I walked to my truck, didn't look at the building where I'd wasted 12 years, got in, started the engine, rolled down the windows. No more invoices, no more fake smiles, no more Miranda Walsh. I put it in drive and pulled out of the lot. Wasn't going home, I was going anywhere but here. I merged onto the highway, turned up the radio, and drove into whatever came next. First time in 12 years, I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, and that felt pretty damn good.